You ever find yourself holding on to something that's already slipped through your fingers? Yeah, that kind of pain, that kind of hope. His moves, he left, didn't he? He's smiling in photos with her now, laughing like he never cried with you. And people say, move on, he's happy now. But deep down, you know something they don't. You know what it felt like when he looked at you like the rest of the world didn't exist. You know what it meant when he told you things he never said out loud to anyone else. He poured out pieces of his soul and you caught every drop like it was sacred. And then, just like that, gone. Now he's posting cute couple things with someone else. Everyone thinks it's perfect. They say he's changed, but you know better. You know the masks he wears. You've seen him at 2 a.m. when the world was quiet and he couldn't pretend anymore. People think he's not coming back because he's with her. But what they don't understand is this. Physical presence isn't the same as emotional connection. He may be holding her hand, but he's still haunted by your fingerprints. He may sleep next to her, but he dreams of the way you whispered his name like it meant something. And maybe he doesn't say it, maybe he doesn't even show it, but inside, he feels it. He remembers. And when the noise dies down, when the fun fades, when the new becomes normal, he's going to hear the echo of everything you gave him. Because the truth is, you don't forget someone who saw the parts of you that you buried. You don't forget someone who stayed when they had every reason to walk away. And he didn't forget. He just got scared, or tired, or weak. He'll come back. Not because he has to, not because he's lonely, but because even if he tries to build a whole new life with someone else, there's a room in his heart where only your name fits on the door. And you'll be the one he remembers. You'll be the one he remembers when he's sitting in silence after the laughter fades, when he's done pretending that what he has now is what he truly wants, when he stops playing house and realizes home was never a place, it was a person, you. You didn't love him half-heartedly. You didn't give him the version of yourself that was easy. You gave him the version of you that was raw, unfiltered, real. The version that cried when things got too heavy but stayed anyway. The version that pushed through arguments, through late nights, through silent treatments, and still came back with open arms. You showed up, always, even when he didn't. And maybe right now he thinks he's found something better. Something easier. She probably doesn't question him. Probably doesn't call him out when he's being emotionally unavailable. Maybe she lets him hide the parts of himself he tried to heal with you, but easy isn't real. And temporary comfort doesn't replace depth. You carved yourself into him without trying to. Not because you were trying to be unforgettable, but because everything about you was too honest to be faked. You laughed like you meant it. You cried like your heart was breaking. You touched him like he was human, not just some idea you were chasing. And in a world full of filters and false affection, that kind of love is rare. That kind of connection leaves a mark. So yeah, maybe he's smiling now, maybe he looks fine, but when he lays awake at night, it's not her voice in his head, it's yours. It's the way you used to say his name when he was unraveling. It's the way you knew how to reach him, even when he didn't know how to reach himself. You didn't just love him, you understood him. And that's the thing. Being understood, that stays with you. You can replace bodies, you can replace conversations, you can even replace routines, but you can't replace a soul that met yours in the dark and didn't flinch. That's what you were for him. That's why he'll come back. Not today, maybe not next week, maybe not even this year. Because some men take longer to realize what they had. Some men have to lose the real thing before they see how rare it was. They chase illusions. They get caught up in surface level sweetness, thinking it'll fill the void that opened the day they let the real thing slip away. But time has a way of revealing truth. And eventually he'll see through the distractions. Eventually the spark will die. And he'll notice that the fire you built with him burned warmer than anything he's felt since. He'll remember the quiet mornings, the stupid inside jokes, the way your presence made the air feel different, calmer, safer. He'll remember the way you challenged him, not to break him down, but to build him up. You didn't settle for the mask. You wanted the man underneath it. And even when he tried to push you away, you stayed long enough to prove you weren't afraid of his darkness. She might love him, sure, but does she see him? Or does she love the version he's pretending to be? Because you saw him on his worst days and didn't flinch. You saw the panic behind his anger, the wounds beneath his silence. You didn't walk away when he was distant, you leaned in closer. You didn't run when he got cold, you built a fire around him. That kind of love doesn't fade. That kind of connection doesn't just disappear. He can convince himself it's over. He can laugh louder, kiss deeper, and post like it's all fine. But there will come a day when the silence between them gets louder than the noise they've been making, and in that silence, your name will echo. Because the truth is, he didn't leave because he stopped loving you. He left because he didn't know how to keep something real, because real requires work. That real requires vulnerability. Real requires confronting everything we've been running from, and you forced him to do that. You showed him what real love looks like, and it scared him. It scared him because he knew he couldn't fake it with you. He couldn't charm his way through the tough moments. He couldn't keep you at a safe distance. You loved him too deeply for that. You expected him to rise. And when he couldn't or wouldn't, he convinced himself it was easier to walk away. But deep down, he knows what he had. And every time he looks at her and feels that something is missing, he'll know where to look. He'll remember the way you held space for him without judgment, the way your silence said more than her loudest declarations ever could, the way your goodbye still lingers like a whisper in the back of his mind. He'll come back, not to pick up where you left off, but to admit it, to admit that he wasn't ready for the love you offered, to admit that he tried to replace you and failed, to admit that no matter how far he ran, he was always running in circles that led back to you. And maybe by then you won't be waiting. Maybe by then you'll have learned that you never needed someone to come back. You just needed to remember who you were before they left. But he'll come back anyway, because some people leave thinking they'll find better and then realize they already had the best. Some people chase peace in other arms and find only noise. Some people think love can be replaced like furniture until they miss the creak in the floorboards that made it feel like home. You'll come back because people don't forget how you made them feel. Not really. Not when it was real. Not when it was soul deep. Not when it forced them to look at who they were becoming. And you didn't just love him. You saw him. You held him. You fought for him. You were the storm and the calm, the fire and the warmth, the chaos and the comfort. He might be with her now, but pieces of him still belong to the memories you made. And the day he finally stops pretending, he'll come back. Not because you asked, not because you waited, but because love, like yours, it always echoes. Because love, like yours, lingers. It doesn't beg to be remembered, it just is. In the quietest hours, when the world stops spinning and he's no longer distracted by plans or people or noise, that's when it hits. That's when the weight of what he lost creeps in and sits heavy on his chest. You're not a passing thought. You're the kind of memory that sticks to the soul like perfume on skin. No matter how much time passes, your name still stirs something in him. It still pulls at the parts of him he tries to keep hidden. Because you didn't just occupy space in his life, you transformed it. You were the mirror he didn't want to look into because you showed him the truth. And truth, when someone's not ready to face it, feels like fire. That's why he left. Not because you weren't enough, but because you were too much of the real thing. Too much honesty, too much emotion, too much of what he swore he wanted until it stood in front of him and demanded he become a man worthy of it. He didn't walk away because he stopped loving you. He walked away because loving you forced him to deal with himself. Mm-hmm. But life has a way of circling back, where he'll go on pretending. He'll build a life around almost, around good enough, around she's nice, instead of she sets my soul on fire. But there's only so long you can live a lie before it eats at you from the inside out. There's only so long you can keep wearing a mask before it starts to suffocate you. And when it happens, when the silence starts to scream and the smiles feel hollow, he'll feel it, that pull, that ache, that knowing that the person who really knew him is no longer within reach. He'll scroll past your name more times than he'll admit. He'll type out messages he never sends. He'll drive past places that still carry the echo of your laughter. He'll remember your fire, not the kind that burns things down, but the kind that kept him warm. The kind that lit up every room he walked into with you. The kind that made him believe, even if only for a moment, that maybe, just maybe, love could. And as much as he'll try to deny it, he'll miss the chaos too. Not because it was toxic, but because it was real. Because even the hard days with you had purpose. They had passion. They meant something. You didn't fight with him for control, you fought for connection. You fought because you cared, because you saw what you two could be, because you knew love wasn't supposed to be convenient, it was supposed to be transformative. But she doesn't challenge him like that. She doesn't rattle his foundation. She doesn't reach down into the core of who he is and say, I see you, all of you, even the parts you try to hide. And sure, that makes life easier. That's when your name will haunt him again, not like a ghost, but like a sunrise he thought he'd never see again. And he'll wonder, does she still think of me? Does she still remember the way we used to be? Is there still a part of her that's waiting for me to come back? He'll wonder, and maybe he'll never ask. Maybe his pride will choke the words before they make it to your inbox. Maybe his guilt will keep his distance permanent, but wondering will be enough. Regret will settle in like dust. And every time he tries to sweep it away, more will fall. Because you didn't just walk into his life, you shifted it. You taught him what intimacy meant. You held him with hands that healed. You spoke life into the parts of him he let die a long time ago. You didn't love him for who he could be. You loved him for who he was, flaws and all. And then you stood beside him and said, let's grow. That kind of love, it doesn't just disappear. He can tell himself he's over you. He can look into someone else's eyes and try to find pieces of you there. He can lie to the world and even to himself, but deep in his gut, in the part of him that still remembers your favorite song, your midnight rants, the exact rhythm of your breath as you fell asleep next to him, he knows. He knows it was real. He knows it was different. He knows it was you. And he'll come back, not to fill a void, not because he's lonely, but because some connections are written in something deeper than time. They're carved in spirit, branded on memory. And no matter how far he runs, he'll always feel that pull, that unexplainable force that whispers your name in the middle of someone else's arms. He'll come back when he realizes you weren't asking for perfection. You were asking for honesty, for effort, for presence. And maybe that terrified him, because presence means accountability. It means showing up when it's uncomfortable. It means choosing love, but time changes people. Pain matures us, loneliness sobers us, and sometimes losing the right person is what teaches us how to be one. Maybe that's what he needed. Not because you are wrong, but because you were too right too soon. And by the time he understands all of this, truly understands it, he'll carry your name like a prayer he never finished, like a chapter he never got to close, like a flame he never let himself fully feel, afraid it might burn him alive. He'll come back not expecting forgiveness, but hoping for a glimpse of the warmth he once took for granted, hoping you'll look at him and see the man who finally became what you always believed he could be. And maybe you will. Maybe you'll see the change. Maybe you'll recognize the remorse in his eyes. Maybe a part of you will still ache for the boy who left and the man who returned. But maybe, just maybe, by then you'll have grown past him. Maybe you'll have found peace in your own fire. Maybe you'll have stopped waiting for someone to come back and instead built something so beautiful with yourself that you no longer need them to. But he'll come back anyway, because love like yours doesn't come twice. It doesn't wait around in every pair of eyes he meets. It doesn't show up in every laugh or every kiss. It's rare. It's once in a lifetime. And now that he's lived without it, he knows. Now that he's touched something softer, safer, but emptier, he knows. He'll come back with stories he can't finish because they don't end in you. He'll come back with hands that have held others but still feel empty without yours. He'll come back with a heart that's cracked not from being broken, but from being unfulfilled. Because no matter where he goes, he won't find what you gave him. He won't find the fire and the safety, the chaos and the peace, the love that challenged and comforted all at once. He won't find the girl who sat with his demons and still loved him, who fought for him like he was worth something, even on the days he forgot he was. That was you. And that's why he'll come back. Because even if he's with someone else now, even if the world sees a perfect picture, even if time has passed and the seasons have changed, some parts of the soul don't forget, some chapters keep pulling you back, and some love stories don't need to end with a reunion to be remembered forever. So let him go if you must. Let him live the life he thinks he wants. Let him chase whatever he believes is easier, safer, softer. But know this, when the world gets quiet, when the crowd disappears, when the weight of all he's lost settles in, he will come back. He will come back, because no matter how many arms he falls into, none of them will feel like home the way yours did. He can bury it, distract himself with noise, with company, with all the routines that numb rather than heal, but the truth of what you gave him will always live just beneath the surface, and one day, without warning, it will rise. Maybe it will be something small that breaks him open, a song that used to play in your car, a scent that reminds him of your skin, a phrase she says that almost sounds like something you once whispered, and in that moment, He'll feel the ache, the kind of ache that no one can soothe but you. The kind of ache that comes when you realize you had something sacred and you walked away from it. He'll remember the mornings where he woke up and saw your face before the world got to him, the comfort of being seen in your eyes before he even spoke a word. He'll remember how your silence wasn't uncomfortable, it was intimate. It didn't demand attention, it held it. There's a difference between being heard and being understood, and he's learning it the hard way now. Because she listens, sure, but she doesn't get him. She doesn't anticipate the way his moods change. She doesn't read the tension in his shoulders or know when to press and when to back off. She doesn't feel like a part of his wiring the way you did. And the more he tries to convince himself that this is enough, the louder the space you left behind will grow. He'll notice it in the quiet moments, in the way laughter dies too quickly between them, in the way conversations feel rehearsed, in the way he doesn't feel stretched or challenged or moved. You made him feel. You made him face himself. And though it terrified him then, he's starting to crave that feeling again now. There's a kind of love that wakes you up, shakes you to your core, and forces you to grow. That's the love you gave him. It wasn't always easy, wasn't always light, but it was honest, it was real. It was the kind of love that leaves fingerprints on your soul. Not everyone is ready for that kind of love, but once they've felt it, everything else feels like a pale imitation. And so he'll try to love her. He'll try to mean it. He'll try to feel present. He'll try to give her the pieces of himself he once gave you so freely. But deep down, he'll know he's performing, he's reaching, he's hoping she'll unlock something in him that you already had the key to. But there is no substitute for a soul-deep bond. There is no replacement for someone who saw every messy, fragile, complicated part of you and stayed. And that's what you did. You saw his scars and loved him not despite them, but through them. You didn't flinch when he showed you the dark. You brought a light strong enough to sit with it. And that's why she'll never be enough. And not because she isn't worthy or kind or trying, but because she's not you. Because she didn't meet him at the crossroads of who he was and who he could be. Because she's standing in the chapter he wrote after losing himself, and you were the one who tried to keep him from getting lost in the first place. He will come back because there's a weight that follows men who walk away from real love. A silence that wraps around them, even in rooms full of people. A stillness that feels like guilt and longing wrapped into one. And no matter how loud his new life may seem, the silence you left behind will always follow him. He will come back when he realizes that love isn't about perfection or comfort or escape. It's about choosing the person who makes you better even when it's hard. The person who doesn't just hold your hand, but holds your heart, even when it's heavy. The person who refuses to give up on you even when you give up on yourself. And maybe you were that person for him. Maybe you still are. He will come back when he can no longer outrun the truth, that he had something rare, that he had someone who saw every corner of his being and didn't try to change him, only to love him fully and walk with him through his change. That kind of love is a mirror and a fire and a shelter all at once. Maybe he left thinking it would be easier. Maybe he told himself he needed to find himself. But what he's learning now, in the still moments, in the cold spaces, in the gaps between connection, is that he was never more himself than when he was with you. That you didn't take away his freedom. You gave him the safety to be fully real. He will come back when the weight of pretending becomes too much, when he's tired of smiles that don't reach his eyes, and kisses that don't stir anything in his chest, when he's surrounded by people but still feels alone. That's when he'll think of you, not as a memory, but as the part of his life that still makes him feel something. He will come back because you are home. You are the place he ran when he was lost, the voice that steadied him when the world shook. And home isn't just where you feel safe, it's where you feel known. He may not know how to say it. He may stumble. He may show up with awkward words and quiet regret, but it'll be written all over his face, the longing, the hope, the apology he never had the courage to speak. Because there's no peace for a man who once held something holy and treated it like it was ordinary. And you were never ordinary. You were fire wrapped in tenderness. You were truth spoken with love. You were chaos that made sense to him in a world that didn't. He didn't lose just a relationship, he lost a connection, a lighthouse in the storm, a witness to his soul. So yes, he will come back, not for closure, not for nostalgia, but because real love demands to be felt again. And when you've tasted it once, the world feels dull without it. And maybe by the time he finds his way to your door, you'll be standing taller. Maybe you'll be stronger. Maybe you'll have stopped shrinking yourself to be digestible for someone who couldn't handle your full flavor. Maybe you'll look at him and remember everything, the good, the ache, the fire, and still choose peace over the past. Or maybe you'll let him in, if only to look him in the eyes and remind him that you were never the one who was hard to love. He was just too afraid to let himself be loved that deeply. But no matter what happens, his return won't change this one truth. He will come back, because some love is a compass, and no matter how far he drifts, it will always point him back to you. So when he comes back, not if, but when, don't be surprised. Don't be shaken. You already knew. You felt it in your bones long before you ever left. Because love like yours leaves a mark that time can't erase and no replacement can soothe. When he returns, it won't be to save you, and it won't be to fix what was broken. It'll be because he finally understands what he lost. But by then, you won't be waiting, you won't be hoping, you'll be living. Whole, healed, and powerful. Because you were never the one who left, and you were never the one who needed to come back.